live because we were hoping all the technology worked before. I'm going to stand over here. I'm so glad that you're all gathered here. This just gives me so hope. I've watched Stephen and followed him organizing this, but it's great to just listen to all the panels and hear from all of you. This is such an important conversation. So today we're going to talk about the power of unplugging one day a week. This is the world that I have been seeing lately. I also see this, or I imagine this. I am a filmmaker, so I try to articulate the issues that we're dealing with right now with all my movies, so a lot of these images are from that. But this is really what I see that scares me. We can talk all we want on whether research is accurate or not, but I know as a fellow human, walking around the streets and looking at that concerns me. Because when you're looking down all the time, sometimes I feel like we've become that. And it gives you a horrible double chin. Most importantly, it's like the most unflattering position that we could be in all the time. It's like that. But another thing that happens when you're looking down all the time is it's like we're ostriches burying our heads in the digital sand. So we think we're so on top of everything, we're so wired and connected and reading and tweeting, but really, when you don't lift your head up long enough, you can't see what's really going on in the world. And when you can't see what's really going on in the world, you can't see the big picture. And when you can't see the big picture, things like this happen. I think he is the embodiment of a distracted society. He's not the master of much, but he's the master of distraction, and he is keeping us distracted all the time. Now, we're here to talk about family, but of course it covers every sector of society. This is a movie I made about 7 years ago when this is the way I was feeling with my phone, just moving me around all the time. I now have all of my notifications off. I highly recommend that. But we're living in an experiment, and I think we're at a Frankenstein moment. I do believe in the mental health issues. I have kids. I see their friends. I see the way it manifests. I think soon we might have Surgeon General warnings on the phones about the loss of attention and the true fact that we are being manipulated, which most citizens, they kind of get it, but they don't really get how manipulated we're being. So I want to take you back because I do love tech. I promise you I love tech. I'm not anti-tech. I founded the Webby Awards. And back in the early days, in my 20s running the Webby Awards, we were honoring the best of the web. And the hope back then was that it was going to connect people from all over the world in all of these new ways. But what I never imagined is that it was going to disconnect us from the people and ideas that are right in front of us. Right in front of you, life can be happening and you're not going to know it. I'm working with a photographer, Eric Pinkerskill, and we're working on a movie right now where he's going to use his photographs. And he just goes around the world on every continent and takes these kinds of photos. That's the way we look. Even dogs are getting anxious because we don't give them enough eye contact anymore. Forget kids for a moment. Our dogs are having depression and anxiety because we're not looking at them enough. I used to feel like I couldn't get one thought out. This was an animation I tried to show how I felt when I tried to think, and I couldn't seem to have the space to think. And then 10 years ago, my father, who I was incredibly close to, he operated and wrote a lot about the brain and how it worked. And he got diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer, and he was given 9 months to live. And it was the same week that I found out that I was pregnant. And so basically for 9 months, I turned off my phone a lot. And I just spent time with him, and sometimes he only had 1 good hour a day, and of course I was going to turn off the phone. And I thought a lot about, like, what are we doing here? The people that we love right in front of us, we're not paying attention to. We're sitting around and we're all just staring at our phones. And then he did die, and a couple days later, my daughter was born. And my husband's a professor of AI and robotics, so again, we love technology. We are not an anti-tech family. I'm just anti-tech in the way it was making me feel. It didn't feel good the way I was living. It didn't feel good the way I was thinking. So I thought a lot about how we only really have about 30,000 days on this planet if you live the average life expectancy, which is 82 years. And how do you want to live when you're here? And again, does the research, is it accurate? It actually doesn't matter because I think we all know down in our hearts and our souls how it makes us feel. So my family and I, 10 years ago, started turning off all screens from Friday night to Saturday night. This is, of course, it's from a thousands of year old practice of Shabbat. I should say that I'm Jewish. I was about to say, but I'm a bad Jew. No, I'm a cultural Jew, I'm not a religious Jew. And I think that's important because the only people I knew that did a full day of Shabbat were Orthodox Jews. Now for us, if you're an Orthodox Jew, you don't drive, you don't use electricity, but in our family, no screens. It is the most incredible thing we've ever done. Friday night, people come over to our house for Shabbat dinner, and they know if you're coming over to our house, there's no screens. So it's the best meal. When's the last time you had a conversation with people where there's no phones? It's like a totally different experience because people are laughing more because they see the funny. They're connecting more because there's nothing buzzing in their pockets. They're not pulling out their phone every 2 seconds to show you something. It's what we call our technology Shabbats. So Friday night's incredibly social. And then Saturday is like this radical act of protection against this 24/7 world. It's everyone in my family's favorite day of the week. I have a 16-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old. Every religion and spiritual practice used to have a day of rest. It was a different day of the weekend, but it existed everywhere. And now really only the most observant do it. And one of my favorite Jewish philosophers named Abraham Heschel calls it a palace in time. And I love this idea that we are creating a palace in time to actually think and be without the whole world coming at you all the time. Every great wisdom practice talks about the importance of silence, reflection, an inner world that we make no time for anymore. So this palace of time is something I hope we value and bring back. There's all these miraculous things that happen on our Tech Shabbat. One of them is time slows down. Einstein's theory of relativity is in full force because technology makes you move really quick, and when you turn it off, it all slows down. Another thing that happens is that I appreciate everything so much more. The online world puts us in a perpetual state of wanting to buy, wanting validation, wanting more stressful news. Want. That's all we're in. And when you turn it off, you're like, look at what I already have. It's right in front of me, but I never see it because I'm always wanting, because I'm always on the screen. And this is not just kids, I'm talking to all of us. I also notice I feel like a really good mom on Saturdays, because, 2 working parents, we're running around like everyone. But I've made a lot of films about neuroscience and what truly makes a child's brain grow, and of course it is eye contact. I'm also a filmmaker, so I'm always doing whatever I can to feel most creative, and Saturday, I am the most creative of the whole week. I sleep really well Friday night, and I have problems sleeping, so that's huge because there's no phone near me. And then I spend a lot of time just thinking and hanging out. We cook a lot, we do art projects, we play board games. Basically, everyone writes a list of what do you wish you had more time to do, and we fill the day with that. So it's not a day of depriving your kids of screens, it's actually, what do you get back that you're not doing anymore? So it's what you get back and not what you lose. So there's a lot of daydreaming happens on Saturday, because whereas Friday's really social, Saturday's a lot more quiet. I should say that we've done it with 2 kids in soccer. A lot of people want to know, how do you get somewhere? How do you do it? Do you remember that we all existed before the smartphone? You would tell people, I'll be on the field at 2. See you there. Just like that. We have a landline. In case of people need to call us or we need to call, but we hardly ever use it. And it's also really good in real disasters like we just had in California, when you need a way to communicate when the cell phone towers went down. Anyone in California when that happened? Landlines are good for that too. But I think it's really taught our kids how to exist without the phone. Like my 16-year-old daughter, who you're going to meet later because she's visiting a college right now and she's going to come and join us, but she easily walks out of the house without her cell phone. She doesn't think twice about it because one day every week she does. So it's not her oxygen. So in some ways, watching our kids thrive with this Tech Shabbat the longer we did it, the better it got, and the more crazy society became, staring at our phones, and I thought, I have to share what I've learned from this because it keeps getting better and better, not just for our kids, for all of us, because Ken and I feel like we're probably the most productive we've ever been since we started doing it, because the day after Tech Shabbat, you are just so on, because you really gave your body a true day of rest away from the screens. Because the screens bring a lot of joy, but they bring a lot of stress too. And if you really take a true day of rest, you're gonna feel productive and creative and inspired in a way that I think most of us have forgotten. Like, when's the last time anyone here took a full day, 24 hours, not looking at a screen? Wow. No one raised their hands. You did? It's good to remember how to think. You know, if we have a question on Saturday, you know what we do? We ponder. It's fabulous. It's actually one of our funniest conversations because we'll be like, what was the name? What did that? And we just sit there and we try to figure it out. And it's fantastic. And it always makes us laugh because it's important to know how to just think on your own and to not think that the internet holds every answer. I think I've made a lot of films about kind of ideas about meaning and purpose, and in all of them, you have to make space. You have to make space to have bigger picture ideas and to think in an uninterrupted way. And for things like love and optimism and gratitude and perspective, you have to create palaces and times for that. A couple times a year we can't do it, and I'll tell you I feel because I travel for speaking and I can't do it and I feel unmoored, and my daughter, my 16-year-old, will say, oh my God, I missed a Tech Shabbat and I just feel weird all week because I didn't get that break, and she feels so relieved to not be on homework for one day a week and not be on social media for one day a week, to not be on and available. And I think we think our kids would never want to be without it, but it's actually something she loves, and I just think they never get a chance. So these are all the things it's brought back to me. It has a ripple effect throughout my whole week. I do a lot of things throughout the week, like I have a watch now. I carry a notepad instead of pulling out my phone when I'm waiting for people, but I've written this all in a book that I just released called 24/6. And in it, it's really a big picture look at our society right now, the history of technology, the history of time, that we shouldn't think a 24/7 world is inevitable and value it as at the end goal. And then it has a lot of practical advice of how to integrate this into your life, how to convince your partner, your kids, your boss. And then I have a lot of proposals for the tech industry. I am a woman in tech, and I think we need a lot more of that, actually. As a mother, I never would have created a tool that took away all eye contact. And I think the fact that a small group of people are creating our communication tools that might have communication issues themselves is perhaps not the best model for the way the whole human planet is going to communicate moving forward. So, Character Day this year, we looked at technology and character. What's the relationship between your character, your empathy, your resilience, your curiosity and technology? When is it good to use a screen, and when is it better to turn it off? So we've been doing these challenges. We're working with UPenn, and really I would love Tech Shabbat to be something like yoga and meditation. I do both of those practices, and I'm not Hindu or Buddhist, but they bring great joy to my life, and I think a Tech Shabbat could really bring great joy to other people. So I think with that, I get to have a wonderful discussion with someone on this. I'll let Stephen come up, and thank you.